Sanje Chodon Sojin Chono La Shansho Pado Dano Chopsum Che Dake Chichi Jebe Sonam Rola Penjo Sanje Robore Sho Sanje Chodon Soji Chono La Shansho Pado Dano Chopsum Che Dake Shinzo Jebe Sonam Rola Penjo Sanje Robore Sho Sanje Chudan Soji Chonola Shancho Pado Dana Josam Che Daku Shinto Jebe Sonum Dola Penjo Sanje Raba Sho. Good evening again.
Hello, Krishna.
Good evening, Mark, Karen, Lena. Where are you, Mark? Are you driving? Are you driving around?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's wonderful to come back again. Even not just only come back, we're able to, study, pray, practice, and listen to teachings online for everywhere. Therefore, if we are lucky to acknowledge thank you for all the signs, they built very convenient for everyone. Before we start like that way, then we're not very comfortable, it's not really feeling. Right now, just like become normal. Even much convenient, you don't have to worry, I'm late, I have to driving, the traffic is terrible, too far, And if you're able to open your computer or phone or whatever, just join that. Wherever therefore, you can look that way, it's convenient for wonderful. And therefore, everyone just should rejoice. How can I? Even pandemic, difficult time, we have, very nice tool to use this one. Then we study, we study until we die, until we just lost our energy, It's good, study good. Anything, study, we have, our mind is very smart. We have so many different, Hey, Konjo. Say hello, everyone.
Hi, Krishna.
Hi, Krishna.
You just say hi, everyone. You do like this.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, say hi, everybody. Do you say everyone, say hi.
Everybody.
Hey, everybody. Have a good time. There.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye, Kuncho.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Jay.
Okay, Kuncho, go now. You can go.
Yeah. Therefore, we have so many different channels. We can say channels. A lot of things we just not open. We just leave there. Then we study, open one channel, study another channel, study another channel. They will learn. Something we learn too much, then we become crazy. I think who has more education, maybe they're more karo. 로종 가서 어디 남도 많이 있어요.
So more knowledge you have, more superstitious you become.
알레 테이서 말이야. 스시네서 말이야.
남도 다 알아요.
로 신바이라고 그래. 갈라온다.
그래 남도 갈 거나?
근데 다 로종 가서 쳐니 다제 고야 레 뭐야 요로.
아.
제야당 레야당 고야당 직다 제마 요로. 삼야 제마. 그때 갈로.
More knowledge you have, more things you get to do.
I think like that, but.
되는데 그래.
다시 된다고 말해. 세상 나도 삼로 있단다. 아, 나도 가세 로종 제와든지 아니 소소 셈라야. 아, 나같이네. 야보 심도 단나가 로종 지라쇼 큰도 삼 그랬어. 그래서 나도 뭐 장교 벌었어.
So when you study, then you come to realize that there's so much more to study. So when you study, then you always think that, oh, there's always so much to study. Then you feel like, oh, I still don't know so much.
제가 로종시 맨날 그 지시는 그 다리 3대대라고 그러대.
But if you don't study, then you don't see there's so much to study. So you think you know everything. That's all to know, and you know it already.
제자다 아니 쳤다는 것도 직den기 샤왈라 로종 체크와데 빼는 거도 가능나 달 로종데 가서 야보 여와 탐지 텔레템까지 소소 메세들레라고 제용도 와. 배제 야보 땅와 있나?
So therefore, study is very important, right? Because to live a good life, you need a study, you need the knowledge. Yeah, of course, knowledge is very beneficial if you make good use of it, if you use it in a good way.
당연도 배는 남배 춘다거나 로종 제대 빼면 뭐 답부대 진짜 마음도 들었어. 아니 나 로종하고 제고 어디라고 와.
And especially in Buddhism, to know about the Dharma, to practice Dharma, you have to study, and study is very important.
아니 근데 로종 제대로 갈라 아니 다 근데 소소 노동라고 루루라고 제 나도 배나 라브람 첨부 자산 검고 쇼다는 나도 테마지 검토 말아 봐. 근데 소소 지 노동라고 뉴라고 실행하고도
And so then once you have studied, then you have to be able to get the essence of it, the gist, the essence of it. So you make it short, and then what is the core meaning, of that whole study. So like when you are told to meditate on Lamrim, the Lamrim is very extensive, right? So the whole stages of the path to enlightenment, you can't just meditate on the whole thing. So, but if you extract the essence of it and then just contemplate on that, then that becomes equal to meditating on the whole Lamrim or the stages of the path to enlightenment.
제자가 아니 소소지 다 손주라고 년반은 년점이 질러야 지 소소 차상로는 해도 말아 봐. 다 대나네 지 노동으로 때 소소 삼는 야지 고고 있어라.
So just like when you listen to the teaching, of course you can't remember everything that you have heard, right? But you have to get the essence, from that teaching, the core meaning, the main meaning, of the whole teaching, and then you take that with you.
제자마다 로종도 개천 보지. 당도 로종 가지면은 남비 주변에 주가지 로종 제거를 했어.
So like that, study is very important, and especially like I said, the Dharma study is very important. So why is Dharma study important?
제자간도 변나 상제대 잡던 바보 주대 잡는 게 걔네도 잡되 나로스 마음도 되시자 여러와.
Like for example, when we talk about taking refuge, right? So we say the Buddha is the founder of refuge, or one who shows the refuge, and who shows how to be protected. And the Dharma, who is the actual protector, and the Sangha, who provides the help, to find the protection. And so we talk about, the three objects of refuge in that way, right?
제자가 더 지어잖아. 아니, 다 산지 잡던 벌나 간지 지금 내륙 무부고 내수 내륙 강화인 바데 마다 산지가 내세자가 요래서.
So the Buddha is the founder of the refuge, or the teacher, right? So he teaches what is the actual mode of existence. What is the reality? How the things exist in reality. And so once Buddha have explained that, then he is done with his with his duty or responsibility. And so what he explains is what is correct and what is incorrect. So if you do this, then that's the correct. If you do that, that's incorrect, like that. So he explains clearly what is correct and what is incorrect. And so from hearing that, what is correct and what is incorrect, who gets the benefit is us, ourselves. So what we have to know, what is correct, what is incorrect, is by knowing that, then we find out, what is the suffering that we don't want and what is the happiness we want.
And then
he explains, how do we achieve that happiness we want, and how do we get rid of that suffering that we don't want. Like when you go to school, and you study about a particular subject, and whatever you want to work as, right? So if you want to work as something, and then the teacher will say, okay, for that you have to study this and that, and then in order to remove the obstacles from becoming that, then you have to do this, like that. And so that explanation that's given by the Buddha, is called the Dharma, and those who carry those instructions are the Sanghas. And also we have to find out, the sufferings that we don't wish to experience. And also, you have to think about those sufferings. What are the causes of those sufferings? What are the causes of those sufferings? What are the conditions? What brings those sufferings? And so, eventually we find out that what brings the suffering that we don't want to experience is the ignorance, right? Not knowing the reality. So because of not knowing the reality, then we create these causes, for our own sufferings. And so, putting into a method, into a practice, these methods, of how to get rid of the suffering and how to achieve happiness is what we call the practice of Dharma. So in that practice, there are two kinds, the practice of the method and practice of wisdom. And the practice of method, is generating like compassion, loving kindness, bodhicitta, and so forth.
and tindig sham nije yosag mi telang to kurosha sag mares.
So however strong loving kindness and compassion we have towards the beings, we will not have that much of anger and hatred towards those beings towards whom we have loving kindness and compassion.
그리고 제가 변아 오두체 두두체 삼 간제 두체 아니 다들 탑분이야. 다 셔럽고 냠내서 다 우부고 내루 아니 학공이 로더라 우부 아니 탑 셔럽지 하면서
And and then studying or developing that mind which understands the reality, the way things exist, is called the practice of wisdom.
네.
어디시 다 두체 된적이 냠내세요. 봐봐나 난도 네다 셔싱은 도 빼나 제tom바당 봄다 주고 그랑도 셔싱 돌라다 셔럽님 모두라 셔싱은 돌라고 그래서 근데 tunzuga ta ngusa tsigdalaya ane tombani ga namja de sonda ge de shulaya tombani nyamse lembe lote koko yores.
So all this perfection of wisdom sutra, like the 100,000 verses or 25,000 verses or the 8,000 verses, all this perfection of wisdom sutra explains about the wisdom practice, wisdom aspect of practice.
Okay. 제가 다 가던 것도 셔럽님 건 맞아. 다 단다 셔럽님보다 좀 이래 돈이 지는 받을 수 그래서 딩구서야 tigzalaya ane shanchigo sem karere ane shamba karere tiyo mare ina shula ane gogo yores.
And so then so this the essence of the wisdom or the Heart Sutra that we've been studying is the essence of this perfection of wisdom sutra, and it mainly explains about emptiness. So it's like the explicit teaching of this sutra is the emptiness, and there's the implicit teaching, like the hidden meaning behind that, is the method aspect also, which is not clearly explained here.
맞지. 제가 다 누구지 계란님만 걸 맞춰도 봐. 계란님을 다 로지로 쓰고서. 근데 아니 사주 좀 전에 가와요래. 간지네 슈대요래. 근데 대단냠도 수도 수요래. 내가 가르치어야 돼. 그래서 내려오래서. 그 되오잖아.
This first starts with the introduction, which is about the story. What are you doing? Story of how this started, how where Buddha was residing, and what he did, and who spoke and so forth on this.
제가 다도 전에 안에 다도 나도 삼았다고 그러나 산지 좀 된데 안에 다 곰잡네 슈대요 그래서. 근데 대냠도야 아니 셰레즈야 곰잡네 슈대요 그래서. 아니 다 샤리페 솔도와 되대요 그래서. 아니 산지가 진짜랍니다. 다 샤리페 샘라야. 아니 내가 셰레즈라야. 아니 노주 저와트고 너 삼에 삼초대 레바레. 대 산지 좀 된다고 시작.
Hello, brother. Okay, Kunja, you can go now. And so this is where Buddha residing in meditation, and also Avalokiteshvara is residing in meditation, and then there is a Shariputra somewhere next to Buddha sitting there, and both Shariputra and are inspired or blessed by the Buddha, and then they ask a question, they do the question answer with each other.
아니 다 대년댕에 다 사데 장주 선바다 답점바다 gelong 다 되는 근데 봐 뭐고 요래서 년댕에.
And in the audience who are listening to this teaching, there are so many beings, like the Buddha Bodhisattvas, and the fully ordained monks and Bodhisattvas, the healers, soul realizers, and so forth.
아니 되니다 샤리피가 더 가르치버레스 당에 드릭쳐도 곧 대대로 오자 카케라스 지라고 요다 곧 대대로 가르쳐버서나 아니 강사식으로와 아니 년주제 아니 근데 샤저고 샘곰 아니 되네 동반이 아니 곰바이나 가니는 곰고레스 다 저티티버레스.
And so then Shariputra asked the question. Right? So what question did Shariputra ask? So to make it simple, someone who have generated renunciation and generated bodhicitta, and if that kind of person wants to meditate on emptiness, how does that person meditate on emptiness?
먼저 요와 때는 가로 nenju shangchib samla komche je sibi tsawa chuba mnibi tishe tende tobe tablan bese tenzo konenga te tuyungo dasi.
And so, like it is said in the three principles of the path, even though one has generated a renunciation in bodhicitta, one will not be able to cut the root of the cycle sin. For that, one should strike in the correct view. One should strike to develop the correct view.
오지 제 장가 가르에서는 간도 네 둥아요게 저다 들봐야 뭐 모르셔. 다들 뭐 거지. 도치. 오다 대체 다 드린 냠제가 올라가라 된디 냠내 제가 제베 갈아 똥바 냠들 거 그래서 아니 다 되게 내라 봐. 아니 근데 다 돈이 공고 그래서 아니 무슨 두 송을 해서
And so, in order to understand that, so you have to meditate, meditate on emptiness.
그리고 봉봉하고 대다자라지 동반는 바 양답에서 따고 다 텐도대래 생각시다 차상 되게 다 텐도대래.
So all the so you should see all the five areas as empty also. So it says as empty also. So that's the concise or short explanation, and then after that comes the extensive explanation.
Okay, 다 되게 쉬울라야 아니 대 곰베게 아니 다 솔럼다 조놈 그 아니 곰바부 솔럼다 조놈세 티자로 고요다 쉬울라 고고다 고요레스.
But it's
이 쉬울라 아니 포몽고 대다라지 또 만나면 따고 제 땅에 대해서나 아니 솔럼다 조놈을 해서 고고레스.
oh yeah. So so it says like the emptiness of the inherent existence of the five areas also. So when it says when do you practice this? So it's also talking about where you practice this, in which part. And then you should also understand. It's understood that it should be practiced on the path of accumulation and path of preparation as well.
나 솔럼고 가서 아니 론독체네 달라 론독체네 곰. 아니 조롱고 가서 아니 직 달라지 묘화됨. 난 통화가 내가 그때 무슨데 똑. 골라고 내가 딱 또도 공부하셔야 되는데 그러다.
And so during the path of accumulation, you clear the doubts about that and emptiness through through study and contemplation, and then during the path of preparation, you do more analytical meditation with the special insight. And then during the path of seeing, you actually realize it directly. And then during the path of meditation, you further meditate on which you have already realized directly.
Okay. 어디 다 가져 부모하고 대다지 않아지 또 만나면 따고 세티기 결로라 가서 주자 봐. 아니 부모가 때문에 따배 강사 대양 라지 마트바에 봐 맞에 부모가 장 라지 또 봐.
And so it says, like in some translation, there's even though five areas are empty of inherent existence, right? So, so when we say that, the even or also, so that also says that not only the designee person should be seen as being empty of inherent, but also even the aggregate five areas, that's the basis of the designation, should be seen as being empty of inherent existence.
Okay, that is that 도치. 다때 빼면 내가 좀 다 돈이 또 써야 돼. 빼 내가 좀 쳐야 돼. 돈이 마토와이는 가도 코알 줘야 매와 임버리스.
And so emptiness, realizing emptiness is very important. Without that, there's no way we can be free from cycle existence.
제자 단단 간도 질 제자 빼는 간도 더 미지 소소 섬들도 간도 미 참을 섬들이 지나서 섬서요 봐. 소소고 따서 섬설. 대에 수수 섬들도 계속 노르대 여와이나 수수 그때 노래와 무슨 많다는 간도 제일 켈랭 말해서.
So we each have an idea, we each have our own ideas about the things, right? oh, this is like that, he's like that, she's like that kind of things, ideas, right? Or opinion, and then thought like that, right? So we will not know, we will not know whether our thought or our opinion is correct or not until we know the reality.
그래서 was 제가 나도 대 나도 노래와 한 먹고 맨날 미치게 말만 제대 노르둘라나 나도 대 켈랭 말대 갑도 나도 대 갑대 작으로 was.
So before we know, what we're thinking is incorrect. If somebody says, "Oh no, what you're thinking is not correct," then we'll still go against that, and then we'll, argue in all the ways, to prove that what we're thinking is correct.
제가 대슈 전부 좀대 잡고 들었다 네nga 세지 소소 셈에 지샤네 nga 세티 콜 잡초체 요레시 따와들.
And so behind that, force, to prove that you are right, there's a grasping at the eye. Behind that, right, there's a very strong grasping at the eye, which makes you to think that what you're thinking is right. And if somebody says you're wrong, then you go all the way, to prove that that's right.
제가 다는 것도 잠불래야 가디는 요다 짱짱 받은 초바제대로 소소소 잡룰라 소소 따와랬음 따와데 따다이 대 소소 따와나지 마요는 저기면도 삼네 대 잡초증에 나도 슈첨보다 되게 못해요 그래서.
And all the quarrels and fights that we have among each other or among the nations in the world, it's all because of that, right? So we each have our one idea of things in such a way. And then when somebody says, no, this is not that way, then because of our strong grasping at the eye, we go all the way, to prove that they are wrong and we're right.
제가 나도 배우려다 잔디고서네. 저도 잔디고래. 시제도 잔디고래. 잔디고래나 좋아지면 좋아져야지. 근데 좋아져. 근데 나도 배우가 잔디고서. 간지 사상 좋아져야지. 제가 아니 시제도 사상도 좋아져 그래.
So there's a term, in Tibetan for fight between the spouses, husband and wife. Yeah. I don't know. Is there a term in English for fight between husband and wife? Or maybe they don't fight at all, right? Or is it called divorce? No, just kidding.
나도 배웠을 때 나도 배워 다 대단하면 해마다 하나 파지 사단 같이 해서 빼 뉴뉴래 빼 무슨 뉴뉴래 다 대단하고 그래서 그 두바지는 두바 자기 거 대대 그래.
So like in Tibetan tradition culture, there's no divorce, so it's really a rare thing, for husband and wife to be separated from each other. So they can get of course they get fighting. There's even a term for fighting between husband and wife, and they fight and they live together in a whole life like that.
아니야 제제도야 그 카리카트도 그 두바잖아 산이네 굿바이래 제제도 가다 대용한테 가전에서나 아니 수수수 따와 슈첨봉 내 대인서 내 칸에 맞서 나다 따와 토금을 되는 것도 같이 여러.
So it's just a cultural thing, right? So in West, maybe people don't live fighting with each other for a long time. When they have fought enough, then they say okay, goodbye to each other. They get a divorce and say goodbye to each other. So either way, so you there's a fight, right? So whichever whether you get divorced or not, there's a fight between husband and wife. So that fight comes because of what? Because of that strong grasping at one's own opinion or ideas, right? And that this is how it is, and this is what I think, and this is what I think is right. And you don't think what the other person is thinking, and whether the person is thinking is right or wrong. You don't think about that. You just think that what I'm thinking is right, and because of that, then you get into fight.
삼성한테 들어요 것도 없다. 수수치기 가리나 지기 삼는데 다 저거 때문에나 조모나 안에 집 남에는 주바 잡지 정말 소소대 노래와 하고도 나 뺏어서 나 노트 제자상도 들 용도 왔어.
So sometimes people realize, right? So after they have fought and they have divorced or after something bad happened, then they come to realize, oh yeah, what I said was wrong. Yeah, it was I was wrong, to think like that. I was wrong to say like that. So that kind of regret, you get that, right, later.
제가 근데 일레베 갑라야 누마 내데 따따 이 어때 따따 이 선배 삼도 코로나 뱃고 콘로서도 내가 차서도 와.
And so the moment you have that thought of regret, right, later, then that thought you had earlier, thinking that I'm right, is gone, right? It's completely gone.
대미세 코 매와 쇼고마도 코 피에데 따따 이 하코다 누마 노조데 코로나 로다도 텐데 초도 냠용도.
So that thought, and you don't have to do anything to drive that thought away. So the moment you come to realize that that thought was wrong, then thinking that thought was right, it's gone, right? Do you have that experience?
오케이, 다 되네. 대두시나 단두 지금도 삼동 곰자도 가서 배나. 아니 배나 사수이면 소소도 삼문다지. 소소 배나 아니 로버이나 데브라이나 보비나 소소 간데 저 삼로지 당. 근데 곰제가 갈 미카젤라 근데 딱나 세대 소소 근데 삼삼다 나세대 나한테 문두 삼배 초아제가 삼점 남라요 거리서 밑에 시나요 거리서요.
So you can think about yourself, the I, right? Whether you are like Bob, Robert, Deborah, or whoever you are. So when you think I, and then you look at the I, and then you come to realize that the I that you're thinking doesn't exist. The I that you're thinking doesn't exist. Then you get fear. I think, oh, I'm not there. I don't exist like that.
제자 안에 근데 안에 용거를 근데 갑라야 양고 간제 삼로 야보 땅바이나 근데 소소 나와다 맞잡아 나와다 문두 삼배가 지 용완도 초반도 지래나 아니 동반인 거라 고라고 그래. 지 동사상로 샤와이나.
So at that time, if you come to realize that I don't exist in a way it appears to me, so if you by contemplating on that and for a long time about how I exist, and so if you come to realize that it doesn't exist in a way it appears to me, then you are gaining the understanding about the emptiness.
다 되는 안에 손이 가야 말면 나 안에 나다 따사서 봐. 다시 공부 대양 아니 파세와나 아니 공부를 좋아들어면 대시들어 수그려 파르는 아니 많이 왔잖아 그래. 얘가 말했어.
So because when you look for the I, you will not find it, right? But there is the I, and the I is a designee, which is designated, on the aggregates. So just like the I doesn't exist, even the basis of designation, the aggregates, to which we designate as the I, even that doesn't exist. So because when you look for the I on those, each of them, like the aggregate of form, aggregate of feeling, aggregate of discrimination, each offer you, when we look for each one of these, you don't find them either.
어디 다 대가다 다 노태들이 다들 막 아니 산지 쉐레들 아니 샤리피가 저와티 되게 노디들이 다 노디더니 제바지다 다 주동바고 동반이서 다 대티마라 돈이겐 제니시에스 아니 다 제바인 거요 레스들마.
So that is the brief explanation, right? Saying that subsequent looking perfectly and correctly at the emptiness of inherent existence of the five aggregates also. So that's the short explanation. And then there's the extensive explanation comes from where it says form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form, form is not other than emptiness.
Okay. 다도 진짜 다 저러다 안에 주 동바고 다 대가도 주 동바고 동반이서 동반이면 되게 시디 된다 그러나 대전에 안에 초반도 지금 가르쳐야 돼. 대가서 초람다 요놈니게 람냠슬래다 안에 조도 시작이요. 그래서 바로 람나 잡아 있나?
And so this form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form, form is not other than emptiness. So that we're talking about the form, aggregate of form, and then you can apply that to also aggregate of feeling, discrimination, composition factor, consciousness, and so forth. And and so this one here, when we talk, when you apply this to the practice on the path, then it is it is talking about how you practice on or how you meditate or practice in emptiness on the path of accumulation.
다 들바병한테 들어와봤나? 강화 동거리었나? 아니 강화 동아야 갔나? 강 강 동화, 강기 동화, 출 제대로 동화, 동위 진세세 근데 다 배착하지는 또 요래 들어와.
And so then it's talking about emptiness, right? So emptiness, empty. It says empty, and empty of what? You know, what is empty? So first is what is empty. The second is what emptiness and empty of what, right? And then empty in what way? So how is it empty? In what way? And it goes on.
동위 진세.
And then the reason why it is empty, like that. Four.
강 동화다 다 죽대 동무동시한테 죽더래스.
So here we're talking about the form, right? So what is empty? You know, it's the form. The form is empty. So what is empty is the form.
워낙 죽대 가리게 동화나 랑지트베 동화래스.
And what is it empty of? It is empty of inherent existence.
아니 강기 동화서나 말이야. 강 동화서나 죽지. 아니 강 동화서나 죽지로. 강기 동화나 랑지트베 동화래스. 강기 동화.
So what is empty is the form. The form is empty. And what is it empty of? The form is empty of what? The form is empty of inherent existence.
그러와. 아니 출지대 간이데 동거래서 출지다도 동화세.
So how is it empty?
아니 배나 다데 출지다도 간지 고랑 랑군의 제배 랑군의 마트바리 랑군의 제배 동화도 막 셴바자 데바트바세도 도도 찍샤 되게 제배 동화 가자 이면 간지 고랑랑 데바트비 고 마트바리에서 고고 그래서.
So how is it empty? Is it's it's empty as being empty, of non itself. Like so it's the nature of the form, is empty of existence from its one side. So that's how it is empty of.
아니 동화임비 진센테 땡데레서 다 땡데서 고된고 그래서.
So why is it empty? The reason why it is empty is because it is dependent origination.
오케이. 제자배나 오다디 두치 되네로 대 고지라고. 다 두체네. 제가로 다 가서 가르쳐온도. 다배나 주세대 라지트베 라지 트바 라지 트바 뎀바 트바 수두군의 트바 사이드 집바 차고 그래서.
So, so when we talk about the emptiness, it's the same as being empty of inheritance and empty of existing truly, or empty of existence from its one side.
제자 안에 배나 당한도 도에마다 다 죽동바고 죽라지트베 동아래서 죽도 마타 마체베 체나 아니 맞아 나와다 맞아 다시 제베잖아 아니 죽도 니가 말해서 어떤지 고고 그래서.
And so the form is empty, right? So when we talk about form, the form is empty. If we don't analyze about the form, then the form will appear as being solid, solidly existing from its one side. But when you analyze about it, when you search, and analyze about it, then you will not find the form existing from its one side.
배나 아니 남키 때문에 공단 남시 야보요 갈라 아니 다와티 천하 샤와이나 아니 메카지 추어나 다와도 태그람 두치 마타데 버블라야.
So like for example, you see the reflection of a moon on a still lake, like in the clear night, when the moon is very clear in the night, and then the reflection of that moon can appear in the lake, and then some people think, oh, there's a moon in the lake.
대용적으로 왔어.
Is that possible to think like that?
그냥 안도 가는 게 동바 그게 요선 끝나 주대로 봤어.
Or other example, like when we look at look in the mirror, we see our reflection, our face in the mirror, right? And do we think that that's our face? Yes, we always think that's our face, right?
이런 것들 다 중요해 맞도 중요해 말어.
So, but in reality, that's not our face. That's just the reflection of our face, but that's not our face, right?
다 라지 마트 세야 되나 파 가지 따네 쟤는 니버나 저런 얘기 말해서 가지 라지 마트바이 진센데 파 쟤는 얘기 말해서 되다. 도도체.
And so other reason you can say why it is not inherently existing is because you can't find it upon search. Upon searching, you can't find it.
가진 빠바로 거는 내레베 빠바바바 거는 나 반니 도도 니야요 말했어.
So when you search for the thing, on that object, then you will not find it. You can separate every part of it, but you will not find it. And so because of that, you can say it is not existing inherently.
배전에 투시마보로 있나 투시마보야보 이파야보 이와나 금버나 따지 금버나 따와이나 다 금버나 춘템보치지 춘테네 제제제제제제제제제제제제제나 마보고 라도 그랬어 담보 마보야고 이와나 파 춘데 짐전에 춘템바나 마보고 라도 그래 자시시미 슬라면 샤로 그래 다 된다 그래.
So like you see a red color in the computer screen, right? You see red color, and then you look for the red color, and then you zoom it, and eventually you can't find the red color at all. It's just like some kind of pixels there, but you can't find the red color.
된도래 대주도 통요 대주 제가 빠도 제가 지 따다 반도 피 니제 오지나 파 dimdimdimdim 지다고 아니 당게 니제 오데 메와라도 그래 대도다 들어오래서.
So just like you're looking at a picture and then you zoom it, right? So more and more you zoom it, and then you don't get the picture at all now. It's everything's gone. So it's just like that. You can't find it when you look for it.
다요 코 파일로 샤와이나 안에 또베 파 따듯이 코랑피게 따산데 보지 코 세대지 샤나 코 니제 오진 통고요래서.
But if you don't zoom it, you don't look for it, and you just leave it there as something being imputed by your mind, then it is there. It's there. It's very beautiful and looking there. If you just think it as being something imputed by your mind.
다데 두 마샤와치 에네 바데 두 되잖아 아니 다 니제 오칼라다 라도다 다 뎀바 마도서 텐데도 와다 파잖아 니 말이서.
But instead, if you just keep on zooming in, zooming out like that, then you won't find it. You will not see it at all. And I think not existing truly means something like that.
어쩐다 다 죽동바고드나 다 죽대 아니 라지 트베 동화를 에스 듣고 그래와.
So
라지 트베 말에서와. 죽코랑 오 라지 트베 말에서.
When you say form is empty, means the form is empty of inherent existence. It doesn't exist inherently.
그래와. 다테마다 죽동바고스. 빼나 아니 다웨가 준이 천나 샤바데 집바치자레스 다웨 준이데 천나 샤베제 코 다웨 라지 트비오 마다나 코 준이 미기 샤 조건도 데데 집바 나도 라지 트면나 나도 아니 죽나 조거래 요 조거래 들어와.
So even though that the reflection of the moon that appears in the lake is not a moon, but doesn't mean there's no moon, like that. Even though form doesn't exist inherently, doesn't mean there's no form.
그래와 도지 빼나 제다면나 준이데 주지 마tab장 준이 나 조거래 봐 대나제데 주지 라지 마tab나 주코 타니 자 조거래 들어와.
So even though the reflection is not reflection of the moon is not moon, but doesn't mean there's no moon. Just like that, even though the form doesn't exist inherently, doesn't mean there's no form.
제다 다 도지 오나 아니 주세대 코 구조 바리션 디제레샤스 아니 돈이 세대 아니 덴바가로 따바레샤 대다 대니 타데레 죽다 죽게 돈이 세대 코 타데 카가지레스나 대 말에 대니 모치라 도바타데레 들어와.
And then comes the form, emptiness is form, right? So we think about the form and the emptiness of the form. So form is is a conventional phenomena, right? Conventional phenomena. It is it is impermanent, whereas the emptiness of the form is the ultimate phenomena, and is permanent, and therefore they are of different nature or different entity. But that's not the case. So even though that's how they are, but they are of the same entity. The form and emptiness of the form are of same entity with a different isolation. So it's the same entity, but doesn't mean they are same. Okay? So it doesn't mean that emptiness of the form is form and form is emptiness of the form.
Zupunle ti rangji ji tong ngo jen ta de yo ma res. Zupunle zupun le te rangi je tong and ngo tade yo mare serwa.
So the form, so the emptiness of the form, the form being empty of inherent existence, right? So that's the emptiness of the form. So there's no form other than being empty of inherent existence form.
Pechashana and Zunya dawa nawata dawa matrabaniga chibarwas. Can you zuni chikitang, zuni the dawa nare, dawa matrabaniga shachogoyata, teta tenda.
So it's just like the reflection of the moon, the reflection of the moon appearing as a moon and not being the same thing, right? The reflection of the moon appearing on the lake and not being the moon is the same. And they both can be on the same thing, right?
Cheta ngara su zuni de dawe zuni de and dawa nanga yore na te dawa mai banganzo hako yores.
So the reflection of the moon appears as a moon, but that's not a moon, right? That's not a moon, but that appears as a moon. So that can exist, yeah, right? So like that kind of thing is possible, and so that's what we're talking about like that.
제가 동반이 있어서 제가 원하티 시도고서나 아니 오메타와라 양잡이 오마와도 저거 아니 zude zug나장 zu랑지 마트바데 아니 랑지 마트바데 또그래서 당간도 또 말해.
So that's the emptiness, the emptiness is a form, right? Form is emptiness, emptiness is a form. Form is empty, emptiness is a form. And so that kind of emptiness, so who realizes that? It's those who have studied the middle ways, the path, the middle way tenet, middle way school. And so those, who they realize that the form is empty, as emptiness and form is empty of inherent existence.
다데 고치바 치버로 단 라오라오래 다데 레라오지 코네시 다자시모도 칸들 되게 죽동바고 세바칼라야 아니 간지 땅다데 세도요 아니 동반이 주소 세바칼라 아니 첸다 세도요 해서 들려서와
동반이
아니 동반이 주소와
동반서는 따다체
아니 땅다 세도고레스 아니 동반이 주소 세바칼라 아니 첸다 세그레 다시 되내려자 그래 다시 다니도 티캅다 존로요.
So when it says form is empty, it clears that the extreme of the eternalism, and then when it says emptiness is a form, it clears the extreme of nihilism.
그래서 나 주데 란제트베 동아레 세마나 란제트베 아니 라지 마트나 메고레 삼베게 로테 주네 요르와 and Raji Tibet Tomartana, Zu Raji Matana Medore, Sambilo the Mewacharo.
So usually the form exists, right? So if it doesn't exist inherently, then it doesn't exist at all. So that's the nihilism. So when you think that, when you come to know that form is empty, and that clears the extreme of nihilism.
And Tomani Zuso Soyokalaya and Raji Matrabayanaya Mego Mudu something Lojamala and it chanted the Seroa.
Tambukan Tata.
Ambutantachi, but Chandar.
Who don't boss doing it?
And it chanted the Seroa.
Chandar.
Chanda the Seroris. Tomani Zuso Tanta Seroris.
And then so when you say the form is and emptiness is a form, that clears the grasping the extreme of eternalism. So if it is empty, then it doesn't exist, like that. So that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist at all.
다 counter and Zute pa no tachi pa tena manye bayana kaje mata maje vedna zukchi na deva thara zujacho res 그저 동반이 주소세티가 되고 그래서 간지 동배나래 주나데와 대 다른 소그레스 그래서 돈이 그런 소리밖에 잘해서 말아
그래서 동바이랑
동바팅안에 직딱 그저그저 나지 나와져 다른 소그레스 아 마치베든다 지금 수나데와 다른 소그레스
So when you say the emptiness is a form, so that from the state of being empty of existing from its one side, or empty of inherent empty of existing inherently, from the state of being empty of exist from its one side, when that the object is designated as a form, that is that emptiness, that is the real form. So it says that emptiness is a form. That's what it means. Yeah.
아니 동반이래 주지만 아니 주가 동반이 티가 랑지래 오제야 주대지요 말이스.
So then there says a form is not other than emptiness. Right? So form is not other than emptiness. There's no different nature or different entity of the form other than the emptiness.
아니 대마데 아니 주제랑 주동보 동반이래 주지만 주동보 동반이 주소 동반이 주래 동반이 제만 주제랑제 동반이래 장 아니 오제지 아니 타디지요 말이스.
And then same with the other, so there's no other entity, than the form, that's a different entity, from being empty of the form.
제가 아니 답 고대원을 보시나 너나 주소나 랑가 라지 오 동바당 아니 코란이 다 도바찌라 아니 그래 도바찌라 그 모치라 도바타데삼레스 페나 시와다 마타바세
And so the emptiness is not other than form, is not other than emptiness, and emptiness is not other than form. So they are of the same. It's talking about they're both, the emptiness of the form and the form are of same entity with a different isolation.
제가 공부를 들지와 아니 상접 semna 또 송다더니 다도 참 되네 받은 공부를 듣고 송요레스.
And so the Buddha, Anagarjuna, have said this in one of his texts.
제가 아니 주다데 라지 동안이 오지 연장하네. 가로. 떠나 아니 받자원 아니 지 말이스. 주도 꾸져 봐야지. 이 돈이데 다 아니 대가데 말어스.
Yeah, so even though they are of the same entity, but they're not same, like I said, right? The form is, conventional phenomena, and the emptiness of the form, is kind of an ultimate phenomena.
대 많이 봐나 아니 되는 레메 되지자. 되는 레메 되지 자도나 아니 땡주사도 남자 많대 봐자로 그랬어.
가래 마이너스?
아니 되니 둔데 많이 봐나 아니 군인 레메 되지 자로 그랬어. 군인 레메 되지에나 아니 가도 아니 추담도 땡데 이사도 남자 많대 봐자로 그랬어.
So if they are of not the same entity, if they are not of not same entity, then if they are, then they will not be related. Right? If they are not related, then we can't say that that form is interdependent.
제가
Then the same can be applied to other phenomena as well.
제가 때는 좀 마음이 추가 요 말에 했단다 아니 단다 그래서 간식 땐 뭐지 대신 땐 좀만 be죠. 간식 땐데 마음에 중간에 보면 대신 동화 마음이 중간에 말로 가로 대신 때는 종아가 마토 중간에 요 마음이스 라제지는 동화다 마토 중간에 마음 간식 때는 종아 연자 아니 동화 연자 아니 라제지 동화 라제지 동화래 들어와.
And so when it's empty, then it has to be the interdependent. So it's just like in the place of the independent origination. Tsongkhapa said that there's no phenomena that is not interdependent, and there's no phenomena that's not empty. So if it is empty, then it has to be interdependent. If it is interdependent, then it has to be empty.
다 노치는 줄라 바지는 안 초바단 디시다 셈바다 열레 바 강가 마샤지 가 주다는 고와 라 토사레 지 라트나 셈바도 바 카제 쪽래
So just like the form, then you can also apply the same reasoning to other aggregates like the feeling, discrimination, compositional factor, and consciousness as well.
제가 딱 대사 고대 다시 단도 빼면서 차포레스 빼 차포레 레라고 하고 말네.
It's not easy to understand, but do you understand it?
단단 제시 장의 파 두조 그래.
So sometimes it gets worse, when you go into the commentary.
다 텔레파 다 주세데 고 랑운의 집에 동아레스 고 다라 샤샤나 파지 링에서 그러와.
And rather, if you just leave it, to where you said, "Oh, the form is empty of inherent existence."
그래서나 임베 제사가나 안에 주대 제다 깰라 때니 쇼와 연자 라지 트와요 마레스 안에 랑운의 트와요 마레스 오도친 샤샤나 티코 대한 용도와.
The reason why it is not existing inherently is because it exists by depending on cause and condition. Therefore, it doesn't exist inherently, or doesn't exist from its own side.
오나 주 라지 트베 동아 덴바 트베 동아는 덴바 트베 페라샤 수근대샤 드네 마레스 수코라 라지고 마타바 타라 샤고 그러면 카카 샤요 마레스.
So, like when we say that the form is empty, of inherent existence, it doesn't mean that form is here and inherent existence is somewhere there out there, and then so this form is that can't reach to that empty of existing from its own side. And therefore, it's empty of light, not like that, not far light. So the very nature of the form itself, is empty of inherent existence.
가래에서나 안에 덴바세 접소나 제다 젠다 차시 가야 맞다 가지고 그래. 제다 주대 제다 젠다 차시라 덴바 연자 그 덴바 터 말레스.
So if it exists truly, then it has to exist without depending on causes, conditions, and parts. But in the case of the form, it does exist, right? It does depend on the cause and conditions and the parts. Therefore, it doesn't exist truly.
다 원했대 주 덴바 터나타 마타다 마타 가르치도 가르팽거나 간시 덴지기 주고 땡기 지가 내부 내로 야보지 때는 밥도 와이나 아니 주라 차베 차파도 도로 그래. 수수지라 강가도 패드 되레스.
So what does it matter whether form is empty or not, right? We might think that. But if we understand that form is empty of existing from its own side, empty of existing in a way it appears to us, then our attachment to the form will decrease.
다는 지 줄라 잡아는 장 안주 가디자 수수 강사마 가렌 통화데 따다 인사면서 대 놀거요 반도 그래. 대라 대 딘지기 수수 전바 첨보도 마도로 그래.
And so we have this idea about a form, like say for example form, right? The way it appears to us, and we think that's the way it exists. And because of that, then we have strong grasping at it. So when we come to realize that it doesn't exist in a way it appears to us, then that grasping will become less also.
Okay. 담 된다 간지 냠레 고야 됐다 되래. 간지 가리패 그래서나 수수질라 안에 텔라 차파 텐즈면 좀 슈치모도 대동로 그래서.
And so that's the practice to do. What benefit is there is that one will have less grasping at that object. So one will be able to stop that grasping if we are able to see that object or form being empty of true existence.
되게 가리 놓고서나 당인 가돌래 봐. 아주 소소 강사마 소소 강나마 소소 강코와 소소 샘나 강 요와 다른 예선비 좀 슈치모죠. 대 좀 슈까지 쳐와 짬지 되는 요라만 보여 거에다 안에 라제트베 동화데 또와 있나 된자 바가가 총총하는 거래서.
So what happens if we have that grasping? Just like I said, because of that, our strong grasping at our ideas and the things that appear to us, thinking that that's how it appears, and that's how it exists. And because of that, right? So because of strong grasping at our ideas, our opinion, and then we get into all these problems. Right? We fight with people, we don't agree with them, and so forth. So all that happens because of this strong grasping. But if we are able to see the things not exist in a way they appear to us, or not existing truly, then that grasping will become less and less, and then we'll have less and less problem.
제가 단데 하고 내가 고바로 되다. 된 타투 고발에 대도나 아니면 고발에 또 고발의 조만은 산지고마 토그레스.
So that's the temporal benefit, right? So right away, you get that benefit, and then of course, ultimate benefit is that through that you'll be able to cut all the ignorance, and then achieve a state of liberation or enlightenment.
오케이, 다 드리려서 다들만 제가 뭐보든 제가 강가 지금만 로데바나 텔팡 고비를 장로사레스 와.
And so there's a very more commentary on this, but I don't think it would be a good idea to go through each and every word of the commentary, because that can create even more confusions.
Okay. Any questions? Do you guys also discuss chamber?
So last week, did you guys have discussion afterwards? After the class?
Any questions?
Any questions from there?
We all discussion, okay? The answer is not just me. Yes, Marco? Yes, go ahead.
I've been thinking, but I keep losing the thought. But maybe someone else ask the question and then I can come back again.
You just looking question.
No, I have a question because I'm trying to think, because it's most of a problem if I get hurt by someone because there's an I. So if I think there's no I, if I don't grasp that much about the I, the myself, then I wouldn't get hurt by other people's commentary or get upset by something. Is that the way to how I should see it? Is to don't grasp what my feeling is, or so is my feeling not real because so where is the individual's feeling? Is that individual feeling not real, not there?
가서 소소
다 그냥 소소한 땅아매 삼배나더네. 그냥 나가 지야데 숙충으로 했어. 내가 된나 내 삼바데 내 초와데 매바이나. 나는 소소 즉 초와 좀 거라. 소소 초와 좀 거라. 내가 안되는 소리고 초와 좀 거라. 어디 초와데 땅 나라 초나시 요 말에 삼바나 내 초와라. 내 초나시 여러신 밑에 즉 가봐쟁이 되어라. 밑에 즉 가봐자바이나 코로나 즉 그런 게 초나시라 초나시 요 말씀 가봐자바이나 때는 그런 게다 초나시 매 삼바이나 때는 가봐자야 될 때는 밑에 즉 소소라 즉 생로 포화된 요로 그러겠어.
야 대용거라도 소소절라면 소절라 나세 내때 연 나라 지나도 소소 좀 마슈치 뭐야 봐. 소소빈의 파조에 라바나지 말 소소 삼만이 많이 삼나 휴 가대 총하든지 파조 소소를 내와 용으로 그랬어. 수산을 보고 말해.
Yeah, that's true. When you think of that, think in that way, like, oh, it's just my feeling. It's just my feeling. It doesn't mean that that's how things are. And doesn't mean that I was there. So even if the people say like that, then say some way, then it's just my feeling. It's not really that way. So it doesn't matter if they say it that way, like that. So it can help. So like when you say there's no I, then there's if you think there's no I, right? Well, what it actually means is there's no I existing from its own side. And so if you are able to see that, then to the I, the I that's that is saying that, oh, they're saying this to me, is like the I that you are thinking of as being existing from its own side. So when you're able to see that, then of course that will also help to not have that strong feeling when somebody says something bad to you.
근데 얘들은 전부 슉 가세 채워든지 텔레직 정해주는 간도라까지 되게 샘축 채그래서. 근데 전화로 폰 근데 싸바지 여와이나 텔라완도 텔레교셔는 것도 샘나 백 세나 채그래서. 다 폰님 바에는 아이폰 당분이 바로는 지라나 저 샘나 토할래가 말까나 그걸 잡아요 말았어.
So how much strong grasping you have towards the object or towards yourself that much more feeling you will have when somebody says something bad or good, to you. How much grasping you have towards your possession, like iPhone. So if you have a new iPhone and you have very strong attachment to it, strong grasping to it, and therefore, so if it got lost or if it got damaged, then you get more feeling. You get more. You feel more pain, or you feel big loss like that. But if it is an old iPhone, which you don't have much grasping at, like iPhone maybe old, maybe 1 or 2, then you don't. If that get lost, it doesn't matter. It's an old iPhone, doesn't matter, because you don't have a strong grasping at that, and therefore, even if it get lost or damaged, you don't get that much feeling.
That depends. Okay. Okay, others, Jennifer.
Thank you, Geshe. My question is, if things come into existence because of concordant cause, like the substantial cause of form has to be form, so then how can we say that form exists independence of conceptual designation? Because that sounds almost like that's dependence on something that's a non-concordant cause, because it's conceptual.
그래. 답변은 풍보디 유견을 알게 그랬어. 풍보 용어를 유견을 알게 그랬어. 이나 풍보 세야데 때는 똑배 따좀 라스. 풍보 세도 똑배 바닥 싸면은 그 풍보 차이 그랬어. 다 풍보 뒤 풍보 차와라. 똑배 따좀 때는 풍보 차로 다. 대 유견을 알게 보면 다스 그래.
풍보 따좀 따사대 용어도 지혜를 알래도. 이제 맨날 따사 그러라면 도. 근데
딱시 있어 왔다.
나오죠.
딱시 이렇게 버려라.
나오죠. 부모 거랑 아니 영화대 그 제다께 몸보이라 때는 것도 따사이라고 여러 가지. 예, 따사이 얘기하고.
So yeah, of course, it depends on how you impute, right? Impute on the object, but you can't impute anything, anything, you can't, so like I said, designee and the basis of designation. So the designee, depends on the basis of designation. You can't just, designate as something. So for the basis of designation, like the form, it has to depend. There's the object, that's called form. That's the called form. For that object form to exist, it has to depend on cause and condition. And to that basis, the object, and you designate it as a form like that. So yes, definitely it has to depend on that.
Okay, I'll answer the question for her, maybe Bob or Deborah. Can you guys answer that question?
I don't think so.
No, what do you think? What do you answer that?
Can there be a form? Can there be a form without cause and condition? Just with the designation?
No.
There you go, Jennifer. Bob says no.
No, this is clearly. Those are the some of down with it. Lelo de low shagmar, low ten shagmar. No, Tasa and the Nicola Pesha Mombolo, the Kanga party, they said jump shoot to a jaguar, Lelo de low shagmar.
So what's your further question on that, Jennifer?
Well, it almost, when we talk about dependent origination in terms of dependent designation, conceptual designation, that almost makes it sound like it comes into being, it exists in dependence on conceptuality. So it almost seems like a discordant cause, because if form itself comes into being, causes and conditions that have to be, form yeah, the substantial cause of form has to be form, then how can we also say that it comes into existence in dependence on conceptual designation? It seems like two different causes.
I think those are two different things. One is depending on causes and conditions, but depending on dependent designation is different from depending on causes and conditions, because space is permanent. It doesn't depend on causes and conditions, but it is dependently designated.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So,
and that's, so, but when we talk about dependent origination and the three levels of subtlety, so those other, so causes and conditions and parts, those still exist, even though that the subtlest level is by conceptual designation?
I think so. I think existing by dependent designation is different from existing due to causes and conditions. It's a different thought.
But tobe tadam said the kaje tobe ko pata patene nyege marta ko to ko patene nyewane tangi chondo chitain ba par mabosh sonda mabosh yawatana and the put tendo ko land or was or tindo was ro
똑배 따점 세다 다 가서 똑배 따점도 강가 똑배 따점이라. 똑배 따점 영어라 딱시 유도 그거.
제가 따지 예대 따지 예지로 와 따지 예대 고 또베 파타서 저러 고랑은 파체나 니가 말했어 또도 또베 따바나지 여러 배는 요 말했어 소소 또바 나나지 그게 체는 니가 말했어
똑배 따바 점 그때는 그 용도 그 시도 그거 그랬어.
제가 또베 따바서 힘받지 아니 다그
시도 그거 말아.
또베 따바서 힘받지
거의 그런 유견 또 그거라서.
제가 또베 따바서 힘받지 대야콘 지대게 다니라 고 간나 고 그런 게 샤워때 다 하나 따바는지 제도였나 아니 건도 여서 다시 샤워로 왔어 야 또베 따왔던가 요 말바나 룽우라 여서 봐 또베 따스나 고 그런 맞아 그런 매와 이제 요 말했어.
So yeah, so merely imputing so and so as such, you have, it cannot exist just by imputation. It has to from then so that there has to be an object, there has to be the basis of designation, which is designated as such and such. So like a form, so there is the basis of designation. There has to be a basis of designation to which you call a form. And without that, there's nothing. But without designating, it's such and such, even though there's an object there, but it can't be called form. It can't be form without being designated as a form. So you can't be called so and so without you being designated as so and so. Like when you are designated as Jen, then you are you become a Jen after you being designated as Jennifer. Otherwise, even you are born from your mother, father, all this depend on this. But if you are not designated as Jennifer, you will not be Jennifer. Well, of course, for Jennifer to exist, it has to depend on father, mother, and all these things. Just by name, you can't be Jennifer. They have to, of course. So yeah, so they all have to be together.
Okay, anyway, that's good. Now you guys discussion, okay? Do you have any question for last week? Yeah, Margaret.
Thank you, Geshe-la. No, just a little bit about that question just now that Jennifer asked, but in the first part, in your explanation, Damcho, did you say that form exists based on cause and condition, correct? So we have form existing based on cause and condition. And then the second part, we say designation. A certain labeling, you label that by designation, and it exists as that particular form that we label. Are these two separate things, as Bob say? Can form exist without designation? The question.
And the Sudi Nisha. And there is another shower. Another
아, 오케이, 다시 해. 단단히 말 고쳐 되지. 아, 되겠지. 어달라. 아니, 이해셔야 돼. 깨정도.
또 뺐다 버렸어. 또 뺐다 배 속디 속다. 사냐 유견을 또 속지 가가 샤워르베스.
대요 말다 되지 봐.
아니 가서 또 속 유견을 맞대베 때는 가서 똑바로 또 뺐다 버려 맞대베. 아니 유견 치고도 속지 샤워르베스.
대요 말에 지체 맞대베 제제 주불라 때베 수지 자야 말에 또베 맞다베 대지 봐라. zu코랑 그래. 강간 술을 하다 그래.
So yeah, there can't be a form which is not dependent on cause and condition, and there can be a form which is not designated as a form. Everything, the form has everything. The form has to be designated as a form, and form has to also depend on cause and conditions.
So the
form that exists by dependent on cause and condition is called a form, is called or is designated as a form. And so that thing which depends on cause and condition, and which is the object of the I consciousness, to that object we designate as a form. And that form again you can have different kind of form, right? It can be a black form, it can be a white form, it can be a yellow form, red form, so whatever kind of form it is. It's a big form, small form, so then all this, so that also again is designated, and it depends on cause and condition as well.
Okay, that's it. Now you guys this question. Okay, they're not kaje niomers. So
there's no two separate form. There's no two separate forms, like a form dependent on cause and condition and form designated as a form. There's no two separate like that. It's all one, but it has the both, the both things, in it.
Okay. Okay, now do a little dedication. Then you guys yourself, okay? Ale minyi te kejana ni ko kejangdo.
Saji perkishing nekto tram re rapting shini degen padi sangejing du mikte uagi drokun namdagjing lacher parshub jetsun lame kutse rapten ching nam katrin le chukchu ge padang lo sang ten pedre me sasungi proen munsel tak tu negyu chig edam guru ratna mandalakam iryatayami. In that snow mountain encircled land, source of every benefit and joy, may Lord Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezig remain in life till samsara's end. Savior of the snowland teachings and transmigratory beings who extensively clarifies the path that unifies emptiness and compassion through lotus in the hand, Lord Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech may all your holy wishes be fulfilled. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, Savior, myself, and others, your disciples, please live long. Through this virtue, may I swiftly, having gained Guru Buddha's state, place each and every sentient being without exception in that state. Precious Supreme Bodhi Mind, may it where unborn arise, and when born never decline, but increase forevermore. Itmei wei te chen rezi, dreamei ken pei wang po jom tel yang, Gangchen Gipi Tsugyen Song Kappa Lo Sang Dragpe Jabla Solwa De.
Okay, thank you everyone. If you're interested, do also a little bit more. You just talk more because if you talk more, discussion they become more clear. Otherwise, I just try to say two different ways, makes something more difficult, more complicated. Because I read so many different commentaries, they have different explain so many different ways, also more detailed than me to more complicated. You guys also a little bit discussion, okay?
Thank you, Geshe.
Okay,
Thank you, Geshe.
Yom
okay, thank you. Have good
Thank you.
discussion.